Hello friends, welcome to today's daily devotion. I'm reading to you from 1 Corinthians, the 11th chapter, starting at verse 23 and reading through verse 26. Hear now these words. For I received from the Lord what I also passed on to you. The Lord Jesus, on the night he was betrayed, took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it and said, "This is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me." In the same way, after supper, he took the cup, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this whenever you drink it in remembrance of me. For whenever you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes." This is the Apostle Paul writing to the people in the church in Corinth. And in this section of his letter, he's explaining to them some of the basics of what worship is supposed to be about. And I don't think there's anything that's more basic or more complicated than the Lord's Supper, Holy Communion. This is something that is supposed to be central to the Christian faith. It is the expression of God giving of himself through his Son, Jesus Christ, and Jesus going even to the point of death on a cross for God's people in the world. And yet it's also become the thing that has become very divisive and complicated, because as we've struggled with what does it mean to say that whenever you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes. What does it mean to say, do this and remember Jesus? There's some people, like Roman Catholics, who believe that when properly consecrated, the host, the bread, becomes truly a host. It is literally the body of Jesus Christ, and the wine is literally his blood. Another version of understanding this is that the very real presence of Christ's body and blood are intermingled with the properties of the bread and the wine. And others say that there's nothing special about the bread or the wine whatsoever, and it's simply the action that causes one to remember. And so you have different people with different ways of thinking about it, and as a result, they behave differently toward each other. And too often we've become conflicted, quite literally, on these different interpretations. But I would like for us to maybe not be so concerned about the hows of Holy Communion, but rather the why of Holy Communion. And the why is simply this: for God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whosoever would believe in him would not perish but have everlasting life. And Jesus' death on the cross is what we proclaim as our connection to forgiveness of sins and the experience of reuniting our spirits with God's Spirit. And that's why we can be the children of God. So whatever you believe about the whats of communion, let's agree on the why and go from there. And I'll see you tomorrow for another daily devotion.